and thinking about what I wanted to preach on, what God wanted us to talk about this morning, I came across a verse that I had never, listen, I'll be honest, I'd never paid attention to. Right? I have a Bible reading plan, and every single year I read through the Bible, and I've read this verse dozens of times, but I've never really paid attention. You ever do that? Like you're reading, and then all of a sudden, yeah, some of you are lying. Like, I never do that. This is one of those verses in 1 Chronicles chapter 7. We're going to be there in a minute, but it's one of those verses that we don't really pay attention to it. We read past it, we read over it, but it carries a massive impact for all men and for all dads, for all husbands. And in Proverbs chapter 20, verses 6 and 7, it says, "Many a person proclaims his own loyalty, but who can find a trustworthy person? A righteous person who walks in his integrity, how blessed are his sons after him." Every single person that you ever talk to will claim to be faithful, will claim to be loyal and trustworthy and be a person of integrity. However, not every person can back that up with real data. True, righteous followers of God, righteous men, they have integrity and loyalty, and other translations talk about love. And what it says about this is it says that the men who carry these traits, people who have these traits, it says, blessed are their children. A blessed man leaves a legacy that his children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren can be proud of. And that's what I want to talk to you all about today, is the legacy of fatherhood, about leaving a legacy in your family. The greatest legacy that I will ever leave is Arrow and Maddox. It's not the work that we do in this church. Listen, the work that we do here is extremely important, but the most important legacy will be my children and my grandchildren after them. Eventually, the things that we do here, the things that maybe in 50 years from now, they're going to have been forgotten about long ago. However, my kids will live on, and so they are the most important legacy that I will leave. I, as a man, as a husband, as a dad, I want to be famous in my own home. And I want to be famous in my own home because I want my kids to know that I want them to get, when I get to the end of my life and I pass away, that one day my kids will know that, and my grandkids will know that Dad loved me. Dad was loyal. Dad had integrity. Dad was loving. Dad was there for me. Dad invested in me. He cared about me more than he loved me more than he loved anyone else on earth except for my mom. Right? Because my kids know, like, I love your mom more than I love you. Like, I care about you. And that's just the way that it is. And so I want them to say one day. No? All right, we got it. All right, we're good. As I said, there's new batteries in this one, so that's on Uncle Kenny up there. So, Arrow, the other day, she asked me, she's in here today, too. I get to talk about Arrow in front of her multiple times today. But she asked me the other day, she said, "Dad, hey, how come me and Maddox killed a turkey, but you didn't kill a turkey?" Now, so sometimes, you guys, have you ever heard of the term sanctification? Right? Like there's a sanctification process, and some people believe that you get sanctified the moment you get saved. I personally believe that sanctification is a process that will not be complete until we make it to heaven. So I'm still in my sanctification process, right? So I'm not fully sanctified yet. And so the carnal side of me wanted to be like, yeah, who called those birds in? Who woke you up early that morning? Whose shotgun did you use? Who kept you in the blind? Who? All of these things. That's what the earthly me wanted to say, is like, yeah, you killed the bird, but if it wasn't for me, none of it would have happened. Right? And so, but then I'm like, I'm going to be mature. Like, I'm a mature man, right? I'm mature. I'm very mature. And I said something to her that I'm like, I just said, this is what I said. I said, Daddy's glad that you killed one. I'd rather you kill one than I kill one. And I said that thinking I was lying, I'll be honest. But as I said it, I realized something. Like, it's true. Like, I've reached that point in my life that I would rather my kids do something than me. right? And so I could say that, and I meant it. Now, I will give a disclaimer here. The first early November, they want to go deer hunting. I'm like, no, that's Daddy's time. That's not your time. No, we're not ready. I'm not that sanctified yet. I'm not that mature yet. That's different. But that's the truth. As we become fathers and as we grow and as we mature, we're trying to leave a legacy behind to our kids that realize that, yes, it is more. We want them to succeed in a different way than we do. We want them to become better than us. We want to leave them with the tools and equip them with the things that they need in order to be a successful contributor of society. We want them to grow up to be productive members of society. And this is the verse that I read this past week that really stuck with me. And it's 1 Chronicles chapter 7, starting in verse 30. It says, the sons of Asher, Imnah, Ishvah, Ishvi, and Beriah, their sister was Sarah. One thing about Asher, he's terrible at naming his kids. That's the verse that stuck out to me. And you're like, well, that's 6 names in that verse. How did that verse stick out? Well, let's keep going. Verse 31. The sons of Beriah, Heber and Malchiel, who was the father of Berzaith. Heber was the father of Japhlet, Shomer, and Hotham, and their sister Shua. I'm just kidding. We're not going to read through all of these. Right? Like this is it. In 1 Chronicles chapter 7, we have a genealogy, and this is the kind of verse like if you're in your yearly reading plan. I know it wouldn't happen to any of you, but let's just say you might be a day or two behind. Right? You haven't done it in a day or two and you're a couple days behind. We love these chapters. Not me. You all love these chapters because it gets you a day. Like I can just skip through it. I can knock out like 4 days today because I'm not going to read all of this. Anybody want to admit you do that? A couple of you. The rest of you are liars. It's fine. But we get to verse 40 and this is what we said. All these were descendants of Asher, heads of families, choice men, brave warriors, and outstanding leaders. And when I read that verse, something stuck inside of me. It says the number of men ready for battle as listed in their genealogy was 26,000. And if you read in Numbers chapter 1, you kind of get similar things, and you get later on, and they've now grown to their fighting men and their family was 41,500. Asher had an impressive family. And probably none of us, and I'll include myself in this, when we read those words, when we read 1 Chronicles chapter 7, we don't pay attention to the genealogies and we miss these little nuggets, these little verses that are stuck in there that really talks a lot and tells us a lot. Now Asher, another time, how many of you know who Asher is? Anybody? Listen, if you asked me who Asher was randomly 2 months ago, I'd probably be like, I'm not really sure, but you might not know Asher. He's not super famous, but you might be more familiar with his brothers. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. Asher is one of the 12 sons of Jacob, who the 12 tribes of Israel later would become the 12 tribes of Israel. And to put it mildly, Asher had a weird upbringing. You could call it dysfunctional, and you would be correct in that, because his dad, Jacob, had 2 wives. He had Rachel and he had Leah. And if you know the story, Jacob goes to work for his uncle, and he says, hey, uncle, I like my cousin over there. I want to marry her. I'm like, that's kind of weird, right? And so Laban says, all right, work for me for 7 years, and you can marry Rachel. And so he works for 7 years for his uncle, and then after, like the day after their wedding, the morning after their wedding, he realizes that he didn't marry Rachel, he married Leah. Now the problem with this is, and this is the Bible, not me, according to the Bible, Rachel was hot, beautiful, good looking. Leah was ugly. Bible. So he says, hey, uncle, you messed with me. Like, I wanted to marry Rachel, you gave me Leah. And so they go through the back and forth. He's like, well, work for me for another 7 years, and then you can have Rachel. So he works for his uncle another 7 years, and then he marries Rachel. So you have Rachel and Leah. You have 2 sisters. This is Jacob's upbringing, or this is Asher's upbringing. His dad is married to 2 women. And these 2 sisters, they don't like each other. If you've ever been around sisters, they have a very weird relationship, right? My wife has got sisters. Can be volatile at times, and I can't imagine being married to one dude and how much volatility would be there. But Rachel and Jacob loves Rachel, but he doesn't love Leah, and so then they start having kids. And Rachel can't have any kids, and Leah can have kids. And so now Leah's like, oh, well, Jacob's going to love me more, and so she starts having kids, and Rachel can't have any kids, so she tells Jacob, hey, I can't have kids, but I want you to go sleep with my servant, and she will have a kid, and that will be my kid, and then then we'll all have kids, and then Leah can't have kids, and then Leah's like, hey, Jacob, I need you can sleep with my servant, and then I'll have more kids. And it's just very dysfunctional, right? And so Jacob ends up with 12 sons with 4 different women. 2 of them are sisters and married. Like, it's a very, very dysfunctional household that he grows up in. And Jacob, not only does he have to deal with all of that, Asher has to deal with the fact that Jacob has a favorite son, Joseph, right? He loves Joseph more than anybody else. And so Asher grows up in this incredibly dysfunctional, weird relationship household. It's bad. So not only if all that's bad enough, right? All the different moms and favoritism, all that. But also you get into the fact that, remember the story of Joseph? Joseph shows up and his brothers are like, let's kill him. We're going to kill him. We're going to throw him in a pit. Let's just sell him into slavery. Okay, so we get this. Asher's a part of that. There's only one name that we read in Scripture during this whole entire story of Joseph that says, no, this is not a good idea, and this is Reuben. So at the very least, Asher is complicit and okay with either killing his brother or selling him into slavery. Asher has grown up in dysfunction and craziness, and we can't say for sure that Asher was involved, but likely he was. Once again, dysfunction. Asher's not as well known. He isn't as famous as Joseph or Judah. He isn't Levi, whose descendants would become the priestly family. Yet, despite all of that, his upbringing, all of the dysfunction that he grows up in, we read that powerful verse 40. All these were descendants of Asher, heads of families, choice men, brave warriors, outstanding leaders. That verse shows us that despite and no matter what dysfunction you may have grown up with, and I know some of you grew up in dysfunction, you can overcome that to step into the purposes that God has called you for. All the jealousy, all the weirdness that you may have grown up, all your past mistakes, Asher overcame all of that and left a legacy for his children that every single man in this room should try to emulate. So that's what I want to talk about this morning. I want to look at the legacies that Asher left his family. I want every man in here, my prayer and my desires for every single man in this room to grow to the point where we leave a legacy that leads to blessings in our family. Because that is the kind of man that Asher was. Before the Israelites entered the promised land, this is what Moses said to the tribe of Asher. He says, may Asher be blessed above other sons. May he be esteemed by his brothers. May he bathe his feet in olive oil. This is Moses giving that blessing that, you know what, Asher, you are going to be the most blessed among your brothers. Your tribe is going to be the most blessed among them. You are going to bathe your feet in olive oil. Now, we don't understand what that means really in our context, in our culture. But back then, bathing your feet in it meant you were somebody important. You had honor. It was a sign of respect and prosperity and nobility. All of these things were there. And so this is the blessing coming from Moses to Asher's family. So how does a person go from Asher, who is, because Asher, by the way, I forgot to mention this. Asher, he is Leah's servant's son. So he is the second favorite wife, her handmaiden. That is his mom is not even Leah. It's definitely not Rachel. He comes from, so how do you overcome all of that? Well, the first thing you do is legacy number 1 is you got to leave a legacy of caring. Verse 40 says that his descendants were heads of the family. And that word means what you think it does. They're leaders, they are captains, they are rulers. Asher cared about his family and all of them, and he taught them, he taught his kids, who then taught his children and his grandchildren, and on, how important it is to lead and to love your family. James Dobson of Focus on the Family says this, I believe with everything in me that husbands hold the keys to the preservation of the family. And I believe that as well. And we see that in Asher. Asher overcame all the noise that he grew up with, and he showed his children what it meant to be a father, and he did so through his personal example. Have you ever heard that, values are caught, not taught? You ever heard that phrase? Like your kid, you can teach your kids something till you are blue in the face. But if you walk away and do the opposite of that, they will not remember what you told them. They will remember what you did. Our actions speak louder than our words. And we have to be careful that our actions and our speech all line up. And I'm sure that Asher, he probably told his kids, you know what? You need to love your family. You need to lead your family. You need to care about your family. But he also showed it and what his words, beyond just his words. He showed it in his actions as well, because it says the sons of Asher, mentions his 4 sons, and then it says their sister was Sarah. And I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but I'm not going to say Sarah and sound like an idiot all day, and if it's Sarah, all right? We're going to go with Sarah. And it says there, in that verse, it says, their sister was Sarah. And if you read that, you might just think that's how the scripture has kind of worded that, right? This was all, but according to Jewish tradition, Asher married a widow who already had a daughter. Okay? I understand this is thousands of years ago, and if somebody in that culture, if you married a woman who had a kid already, that wasn't your kid, you didn't really care about them. And especially if that kid was a girl. You didn't really, it's like, you know what, you're my stepkid, you're my, whatever, like it's fine, you're my daughter, but you're not really my kid. I'm going to exclude you from all of that. Yet, Asher treated Sarah like she was his biological daughter. He did not treat her differently than he did any of his sons. He didn't cast her aside. He didn't play favorites. She was his daughter, and she was important to him. His father, Jacob, had favorites. Joseph, right? His grandpa had a favorite, which was Asher's uncle Esau, right? You remember the story of Isaac and Esau? Like, if you remember that story. So he comes from a long line of dads who had favorites, and if anybody had a reason to play favorites, it would have been Asher, according to the culture, and saying, you know what? You're not my real daughter. I'm not going to invest my time and my energy into you. I'm going to invest it in my kids. And yet, Asher breaks this cycle of favoritism and treats all of his kids the same. He cared about all of his kids. Despite all their influence, he changed the way that his family did things, and he loved his kids equally. Asher, he sets a standard for this is how I'm going to treat my children, and this is how I'm going to treat women, this is how I'm going to treat my daughter, this is how I'm going to treat my wives, all of that. Asher left a legacy of caring and loving for his family. Legacy number 2. Always strive to do your best. Verse 40 again. All these were descendants of Asher, heads of family, choice men. The Bible says they were choice men. And the word choice there can mean polished or chosen or those who excel. And so Asher's sons, they're not lazy. They work hard and they prosper. They do good work. They are workers who prospered in whatever they did. Asher has shown that spending time with he's spent time with his kids showing them this is how you work hard. This is how you do your best. I think it was summer I turned like 12 or 13, somewhere in there. My dad shows up one day, gets home from work. He's like, hey, load the truck up get the mower, get the weed eater, get the gas can, get the blower, right? Get all those things and load them up. And I grew up in an age where you didn't ask your father why. If you asked your father why, you probably got one of these, right? Yes, sir. So I get up, load up the truck, get in the truck. He drives me to the random person's house. He's like, now get out, unload everything, and mow the grass. This is not our house, Dad, right? Basically, what he's telling me is that allowance time is over. You want to eat, you want stuff, you're going to go to work for it. Like, yes, sir. So get out, mow the grass. My dad's in the truck reading the newspaper. 110 degrees, no water, didn't give me nothing. He's just in there, just drinking his coffee, reading the newspaper. So I get done, load up the truck. I'm like, oh, that's terrible. I'm glad it's over. Get up, drive, go to another person's yard, random person's house. All right, do it again. Right? And this is what became like, I got you houses to mow. The free ride in the Presley house is over. You're going to start earning your keep around here. You're 13 years old, right? And this is what he's doing. And he did this for years until I turned 16. For years, he would drive me from place to place to mow grass because he was going to teach me to work hard. Now, to his benefit, to his credit, occasionally, he would get out of the truck, stop reading the newspaper, and help me. Occasionally. Right? He's read the newspaper 14 times that day. He's done reading. I might as well get out of here quickly. And sometimes he would run errands or whatever it was. But the point that he was trying to make is you are a Presley. You are going to work at what you're doing. And not only going to work at it, but we would get done and be like, see that over there? You missed that spot. Go fix that. Hey, see this over here? You didn't do a very good job over here. You need to fix that. He was teaching me not only to work hard, but to do a good job in what I was doing, to excel, to be the best that I possibly could, and what I was to do the best job that I could possibly could. And guess what? That is carried over from the time I was 12 or 13. Now, fast forward 30 years later almost, and I'm still like, if we're going to do the job, we're going to do it right. We're going to do it to the best of our ability. He's instilling this work ethic that I still have today. And guess what? My kids are now getting. Katie can tell you the same story about her dad growing up. Like, hey, you're going to work. You're going to do this, because he's instilling in them hard work, that you got to work in order to accomplish your purposes and your goals. And here's the thing. We both grew up with dads. They could have afforded a few things. They could say, you know what? It would have been easier for them to give me the money than it was to go and drive me somewhere and work. But they don't want to give that. They're instilling you have to work hard. Leaving a legacy of doing good job, getting good at what you do your best. Asher's sons were choice men because their father was a choice man who taught them the value of working hard. I don't push my kids to be the best, right? I don't push them, hey, Arrow, you're in tumbling, you're going to be the best tumbler in the world. No, I don't expect her to be the best tumbler in the world. I expect her to be the best tumbler that she can be. Do your best, and everything else will fall into place. We teach our kids that if they want something, guess what? You're going to go work for it. You want this? Okay, well, how are we going to make some money? What can you do around the house in order to earn some money in order to do that? And why do we do that? It's because that's what our dads taught us. It's what their dads taught them. They're handing down a legacy of doing good work. And that is what Asher is doing, because we see that his sons were choice men. They were hard workers. They were good at what they do. And the reason they were is because their dad was. Legacy number 3, be brave. All these were descendants of Asher's, heads of families, choice men, brave warriors. Now, we don't see a specific example of Asher being brave, right? Because he's only mentioned in a few verses. We don't see a specific thing that he did that's like, yeah, he was a brave guy. But here's what we do know. Asher's dad, Jacob, not a brave man, right? We know a lot about Jacob, and Jacob was not somebody that anybody would describe as a brave person. He steals his brother's birthright, and then he goes, oh, I messed up, and he flees and takes off and runs, right? His uncle mistreats him. He doesn't do anything. When he returns back to his homeland, he hears Esau's coming, and he is not a brave man. Right? And his father, Jacob, he got so bad for Jacob. He was such a fearful person that, remember, after Joseph, he thinks is dead, and his brother, he sends his sons to Egypt to get food, and they come back like, hey, they won't sell us anything unless Benjamin comes with us. And Jacob's like, oh, I'm just going to let my whole family starve because I'm so scared of letting my baby boy, who's now my favorite, I'm so scared of him leaving and something happening to him that we're not going to do it. Right? And so Jacob is not a brave man. So how did his grandsons become brave men? Because Asher was a brave man. He decided he was going to be he was going to stand for what is right. He had learned it. Their kids had learned it from somebody, and they learned it from their dad. I've shared this with you many times. You know this. I don't like snakes. Don't like them. Anybody like snakes? You're a weirdo. All right? But I realized something a couple years ago. Is I didn't like snakes, and I heard my kids say something one day, like, we don't like snakes. I'm like, well, let's think about this. You don't have a reason not to like snakes. Some of us, like, we've been in the weeds with them, and like they popped out and scared us. That's never happened to my kids. They don't have any reason to be scared of snakes, yet they are, is because Dad was scared of them. And so I'm leaving a legacy of like, we don't do snakes, right? You know why I don't like snakes? Because my dad didn't like snakes. It's his fault. Our kids pick up on our fears and our phobias, but they also pick up on our strengths and the things that we do well and the things that we're trying to teach them. We're leaving a legacy in everything that we do, either good or bad. When we dedicate children, I use Psalms 127, where it describes children as being arrows in the hands of a warrior. And I don't use that verse because it sounds cool, right? It's a great verse. I don't use that verse because that's what I named my daughter after. I don't do it. I use it because God created us to be warriors. As men, we were created to be warriors, and He expects us to leave a legacy that creates brave warriors out of our kids and out of our grandkids. Now, here's the problem, is when we hear the term warrior, we think Braveheart, right? Sword in hand, painted face, going out and killing people. Like, I'm a warrior. No, I understand that's not every man in here, that's not who you are, right? You're not that guy. They're not that kind of warrior. You're not a fighter in that same way. But this is the thing about being a warrior, is being real bravery, being a real warrior isn't just about weapons or war. It's about standing up for what is right. It's fighting for those who have no one else to fight for them. It's teaching your kids to befriend the kid who nobody else will. To be friends with the weird kid. It's standing firm in your faith. You do not have to have a war chest of weapons to be a warrior. You can be somebody who's just, you know what, this is right. I'm standing on business here. I'm going to stand up for it. That is being a warrior. Asher was one. He stood up for what is right, and now his kids are known for being warriors. Whereas 2 generations before his kids, they were kind of cowards. Yet Asher changed the trajectory of his family. Number 4, legacy number 4, be a leader. All these were descendants of Asher, heads of family choice men, brave warriors, and outstanding leaders. Other translations say chief of princes or distinguished leaders. In other words, Asher's kids were leaders of leaders. And men, we hit this on our marriage series, that our calling as men is to lead our families. It is to lead our households. That is our job. We don't hand off the responsibilities of leading your families to mom. Well, she's with the kids and she can do it. I got to work. We don't pass off that responsibility. It is our job to lead by example. Asher's sons became leaders because their father led. We don't know what made his kids great leaders, whether wise or courage or work ethic or kindness or bravery. Probably all of it combined. Scripture doesn't list every single trait, but the point is clear. As Asher led, so his kids led too. Those were his sons, right? We talked about his sons were leaders. Here's something cool that I found out about this. We talked about his sons, but we mentioned earlier his daughter Sarah. Where does she fall into all of this? All right, what about his granddaughters? According to Jewish scholars and tradition, the women that were born into Asher's family were incredibly beautiful. And I'm not talking, before you're like, well, you're talking about eye candy. I'm not just talking about physically beautiful. Yes, they were physically beautiful as well, but they were considered beautiful to look at, but also, according to scholars, they were beautiful because they had this all-encompassing beauty. They were women of substance. They were hardworking, spiritually mature. They had personal dignity and honor. Asher's brother Levi, the guy who became the priestly family, right? The descendants of Levi would go to the tribe of Asher to find wives. Because the women in Asher's tribe were considered to be the cream, absolutely cream of the crop. If you wanted to find a wife that was going to be supportive of you, that was going to help you, be a partner with you, somebody that you could be co-heirs in grace with, you went to Asher's tribe to find that. And that's because from the very beginning, Asher has this stepdaughter who he doesn't treat like a stepdaughter. He invests the same amount of time and energy and effort into her as he does his sons. And so his daughter is now leaving a legacy, she and the rest of the family, that for generations and generations, the women in the tribe of Asher, they were leaders in their own right. They weren't just forgotten about. They weren't just the pretty faces over in the corner. No, I'm going to train these women, my daughters and my granddaughters, to be leaders as well. And eventually, fast forward a couple thousand years, Jesus is coming into the temple to be dedicated. And we see Simeon, right? He's the first person to meet Jesus. But the second person is a prophetess by the name of Anna. She has been widowed for 84 years. 84 years. But her calling was to serve in the temple. And she'd been serving in the temple for 84 years by herself, because I'm Anna. This is my calling. I've got a legacy of generations of doing good work, hard work, and so I'm going to do this, even though I'm by myself, even though I could leave, even though I might find another husband. No, this is my calling. 84 years she does this. Anna, anybody want to take a guess at what tribe she was from? Asher. Asher goes from incredibly dysfunctional, weird, odd, different, favoritism, and to the time of Jesus, the second person to ever know who Jesus was one of his great-great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaughters who was working in her calling, because Asher started leaving a legacy for his family that lasted for thousands of years. Men, that is what we are called to do, is to leave a legacy for our children that will be passed on to our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren and on and on to where one day there's going to be a generation of children that are born that have no idea who I am. They've never met me. They've only seen pictures of me. They have no idea. But hopefully, I've done my job and passed it on to my kids, who will pass it on to their kids, of what it means to work hard, what it means to love and lead my family, what it means to do good work, to train up and to live in the calling that God has called them to do. That is the legacy that I want us to leave as men. Worship team, you guys can come on up. And I know some of you are sitting there like, man, Pastor, You have no idea what generational curses exist in my life. I get it. Some of you may have grown up, you're like, well, it must be nice. You grew up with a dad who loved you and cared about you, invested in you. You grew up with both parents, and they were, listen, I'm not, it was awesome. It was great. And I understand that not everybody had that same example. But here's the thing. Asher had a terrible father. Like how Jacob became the guy who became Israel, who became the 12 tribes of Israel. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know how this works, because Jacob was not a good dude. I mean, he was a schemer. He was a thief. Like, he was a fearful man. He was a coward. Like, he was all of these things. Yet, he had some good traits. And so, some of those good traits eventually made it down to his kids. And Asher's like, you know what? Despite all the dysfunction, despite I'm not Dad's favorite, despite I'm not as famous as my brothers, despite the fact that I am my dad's least favorite wife, handmaiden's kid, despite all of that, I'm going to break the generational curse. And I am going to teach my kids what it means to follow God, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a husband, what it means to be a leader, what it means to be for the women involved. And understand, like, in this culture, women just you just existed. And yet Asher invests in his daughter, his stepdaughter, as much as he does his sons. And for generations and generations, they become incredible leaders of Israel, because that is the power of dad. That is the power of the legacy that we can leave as men. Will you stand with me this morning? Asher, he's not a white-collar guy. His blessing was, in Genesis 49, Asher's food will be rich. He will provide delicacies fit for a king. Asher was a common man with a work ethic who maximized what he had. He wasn't flamboyant. He wasn't rich and famous. He was steady. He worked hard. He spent time with his kids. He invested in his children. He spent time teaching them and leading them. And he instilled in them something that leads Moses to blessing the tribe of Asher beyond that of his brothers. Moses says that he will be the most blessed and favored among all of his brothers in Deuteronomy chapter 33. That is legacy, men. It's not about how much money you have in the bank account. It's not about your job. It's not about, how many people are famous, and am I famous? Do people know my name? I don't care about any of that stuff. Like, I want this church to be famous in our community. I want us to. I don't care if it's me. I want to be famous to my wife and to my kids. That is what I care about. And so I, as a man, as Dobson said, we are the ones who have the preservation of the family. We are the ones who will change the course of our family if we are willing to just, all right, I know I got weird stuff in my past. I got dysfunction. I don't know how to do this. But God, I'm going to trust you to help me break this. God, I'm going to help you. I'm going to trust you to help lead me. I need your help to figure out, how do I not mess up my kids? Right? Not only do I not want to mess them up, but I want to bless them and enrich them to where the point where they become brave men and leaders and the choicest warriors and leaders of leaders. How do I get there? It is only with God's help and determination on your part to follow what God has called you to do. We have, as dads, man, it's a great job. I love being a dad. Let's not be honest, like, being an uncle is probably better. Just because, like, I can spoil my kids my nieces and nephews for a couple days and then send them home, right? Like, there's parts of that I can't send my kids home. They live with me. But we get to be dad. It's a great calling. God, our Heavenly Father, has set a standard that is impossible to do on our own. Obviously, we can't love our wife and we can't love our kids the way that God loves us. But we can strive to. We can make an effort. All right, I'm going to break these generational curses. I'm going to break all the junk that I have in my life. I'm going to focus. I'm going to become the dad and the father that God wants me to do. And here's the thing. Like, this is not me like, oh, be better. No. Being a dad is hard. There's a lot of expectations on us. And feelings in the world that the world places on. Being a dad, this is encouragement. Guys, we can do this. We can leave. We have so many kids. If you've noticed lately how many kids are running around in our church on Sunday mornings and Wednesday nights, we can build a legacy through them. We can begin to invest in them and say, all right, I've got this knowledge of this. Let me help. Let me build. Let me invest. You have kids and grandkids or whatever it might be. Make it. But it takes effort. And here's the thing that I know about this church and the men in this church. Most of you that I know. I don't know all of you, but I know this, is that the men in this church, we are not afraid of hard work. When we need something done, Guys, we have a work day. You will show up and you will do the work. This is hard work, and I know you're not afraid to do it. So this is my encouragement to you this morning. Leave a legacy that lasts for generations. Invest in your kids. Love your kids. Teach your kids. Be the example for your kids that they need they can be successful, and they can lead generations after them to come. That is what we get to do. We don't have to do it. We get to do it, and that is exciting for us. That's exciting for me. It's overwhelming at times, but it's exciting as that is what I get to do. So this morning, I'm not going to do an altar call in a normal sense, but men, if you're here this morning, I'm just going to ask you to be an example, right? As men, we did this a few weeks ago, but I believe it's important, and I want to begin to get more and more confidence that I want you this morning, if you want to be the father, to leave a legacy for your kids and your grandkids that lasts for generations, I'm going to ask you to spend some time at these altars this morning praying and asking God to show you what you need to change, maybe what you need to do better, and Him showing and asking for the strength that you need for the future. Spend some time this morning investing in the future of your family. It will pay off for thousands and thousands of years. So before we leave, we got some time. I don't even know what time it is. But we got plenty of time this morning before we need to rush. Spend some time at these altars. God, show me what I need to do. What do I need to do? What do I need to change? How can I be better? Spend some time this morning investing in your family, in your wife, in your kids, in your grandkids, in your future. Let's leave a legacy that lasts for generations.